Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everybody. I hope you are all doing well. Welcome to the second day of the conference, Sheikh Sudan 2023. And I hope this day, which is the last day of the conference, would be also fruitful with a lot of discussions and scientific products. I'm very glad, I'm very honored today to present to you Professor Muhammad Shahata. He is practicing family medicine with qualifications, interest, publications, a lot of publications and experience in medical education. He is currently a professor of family and community medicine at the Faculty of Medicine, Arabian Gulf University. Professor Shahata will tell us about the online OSCE during disruptions, which is very relevant to our situation in Sudan. And I think a lot of universities in Sudan now they are trying to find solutions for their graduating students. So, without delay, let us give the floor to Professor Muhammad Shahata and his talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khalid. And I would like also to thank the organizing committee, Professor Abdul Man'am, and specifically Professor Abdul Man'am and Dr. Hisham for inviting me to this important conference. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be here among you, my dear colleagues. And inshallah, I will share with you our experience at the Lebanon Gulf University and my personal experience regarding the conducting and also evaluating the online OSCE during disasters and at the COVID times. So without delay, as Dr. Khalid mentioned, just wanted to start with a picture that I took myself in Khartoum while we were in Khartoum multiple times. This is one of the times that we were there. Inshallah, hopefully situations inshallah will settle and it will be safe for everybody to go back to Khartoum again, inshallah, and to enjoy the beautiful sceneries and subhanallah that you have there. It's a very, very beautiful city and I really enjoy being there. As you know, all it's as our university, Arabian Gulf University, is located in Bahrain, and we had an unusual situation with the COVID lockdown while our students were actually left Bahrain to their home countries during that 2-week off, where people were uncertain about how the management of the situation will proceed, and we had our students out of the country, cannot get back to the country. We were at March, and they have finished most of their major clinical rotations. I mean, our final year students, and they usually get through an exit exam, MD exam, that includes written assessment and OSCE clinical assessment. And they have this exam usually by May every year. So we were at a difficult situation and we needed to have come out with some kind of solution. And this takes us to the preparation of the online OSCE, where we decided, we actually discussed multiple solutions and we decided to use the breakout rooms feature of Zoom to make them as an OSCE stations and to use this as the major model of our online OSCE exam. So in order to get to this agreement, we needed to have some kind of continuous meetings with the different stakeholders like heads of departments and decision makers in our school. And also we needed to have some kind of situation analysis where we study the current situation and all limitations, considering physical distancing and the ability to bring the professors or the examiners to the campus. Role players, will they be in campus also or not? What are the bylaws and regulations? do they allow us to conduct an online OSCE exam? And more importantly, understanding the nature of our logistics. We needed also to study the kinds of hardware that we have, our connectivity. Can we rely on the current connectivity of the school or not? And based on these meetings and this situation analysis, we managed to agree on some important purchasing that we needed to do, upgrading of our Wi-Fi network at a feasible cost, and at the same time fast enough to be able to graduate our students on time. Then we went to the technical part of medical education. We developed a blueprint for the plan. We started to assign a task force, people who can have the literacy, the technological literacy, to be able to manage the Zoom and to move the students around between the breakout rooms without delay. And of course, building the capacities among the examiners. As you can know that, you might know that each examiner is responsible in the station for showing the necessary instructions for the student, whatever investigation that the student need to interpret or examination findings. So they needed to be also able to handle Zoom and sharing a screen, things that will enable them to take or make the stations in a successful way. Additionally, we needed to have very clear written instructions to everybody. So we actually had transferred all the administrative staff and the faculty within the AGU into members of the team of conducting this online OSCE. And in order to have some kind of a standardized performance, we needed to write down in details the steps expected from all people participating in the exam, including the IT staff, the examiners, administrative staff, secretaries, and so on. And in order to make sure that this is working, we needed to conduct a number of mock OSCEs, and the students were kind enough to volunteer to participate in these mock OSCEs before having the final OSCE. So we run those mocks. We had feedback from the examiners and from colleagues and from students, and we managed time by time to improve the glitches and close the gaps until we have a complete plan and well-trained staff on how to exactly what to do to implement a full online OSCE for our students who are in other countries. And this is a picture of the actual MD OSCE or the exit exam OSCE. So what we started with is to ensure that we have good communication within the team and with the students as well. So for example, we use WhatsApp groups in addition to the chat in the Zoom, because the chat in the Zoom chat function within the Zoom might not be very helpful. And some people might have some kind of delays. The students may get disconnected. So we needed to have some kind of backup communication mean, which was the WhatsApp. So each cohort of students that will be examined, they shared their WhatsApp with the department secretary or one of the secretaries, and she needed to have some kind of WhatsApp group dedicated for conducting this run or this part of the OSCE. And we also had some kind of written numbers of all who will be in this station and how to communicate with him. So communication was very important to run this exam in a smooth way. As you know, we have the breakout room function in Zoom. We needed also to have some kind of to agree on the settings that we need to do according to our exams. Should people be able to get into the rooms on their own, or should they be forced to get into the rooms and to be moved out of the rooms? We used also the announcements, writing text into the breakout room to announce that there are, for example, 2 minutes remaining for the exam. And on every morning, we use some kind of dry runs and final checks to make sure that the audio is working, the video is working, we have no problems. All the examiners are familiar with using the PowerPoint and with using the Zoom as well. Another very important factor was moving the students. So we didn't want to make any mistakes. We wanted this student, we had our exam consists of 10 stations. So we wanted to be sure that, for example, we are moving Ali from station 1 and 2, then station 3, without any kind of conducting this. And as you can see in the first picture, we have the list of names and the list of panels, list of names to the right side, list of panels to the left side, and we were moving students in and out of rooms. So we have this sheet in the third right-hand side picture. So this is my colleague, Dr. Archana. She has this sheet with the pictures of the students and the names of the students and the order of the students. How are they going to be entered and how are they going to be rotated between the stations or the breakout rooms. One feature that we agreed to have in the exam, and this came out of the doing and dry running and having mocks, is the pre-examination room. We wanted to make sure that all students entering the exam are the students to be examined. So we had secretaries who know the students, and they had some kind, as you can see, they also have the sheet with the pictures of the students, so they have some kind of double checking. They check the ID, and one important feature is to ask the student to move the computer around the room in order to make sure that there is nobody inside the room. And of course, these were preceded with written instructions to the students that were shared through emails. What exactly will happen? You need to have a clear room. You don't need to use speakers, for example. So we gave them all the necessary instructions before doing this. During the exam, as you can see, we used the breakout room function to move. So we have here the breakout room, for example, and the breakout rooms. We have a pre-exam room, and these are the people inside the room. And then we have the panels, and we have two parallel sets. So we have station 1A and 2A. 1B and 2B, and we are moving the students according to the sheet that I've just shown you. In our model, the role player was sitting with the examiner in the same room. This is the role player sitting in front of the camera, and the examiner is here, and this is the student. And we also came out with one function which is the invigilator. So this is an anonymous person who used to move from one room to another to check that the exam is running smoothly and there are no issues with the exam whatsoever. And in order not to produce too many OSCE items, we managed to take two cohorts of students to be examined on the same set of OSCE items. So we managed to get a second cohort of students into a pre-exam room, and they will wait there and they will keep their cameras open until we get their colleagues out of the rooms, and we immediately admit them again to the rooms. And in order to facilitate this, we developed a post-exam room. So we have the pre-exam room where the double checks are taking place, and they are sharing their IDs and showing their rooms. And we have the post-exam room where one of the faculty members are meeting the students, taking their feedback of the exam. All the students need to get there, and we instruct this faculty member not to let the students out of the exam until we give him the signal that the others are already being examined. So by this, we managed to prevent this contamination from happening between the cohorts of students, and we managed to use less number of exam items. So what about the evaluation of the utility of this online OSCE? How was it? We also published a paper about this. We published actually a couple of papers. One of them was about the utility. So people who were in the exam agreed that it was valid content-wise. It was also correlated with the performance of the students in other previous clinical exams and theoretical exams, with a correlation reaching to 75%, which is very good. The exam is reliable, and this is very important. The Cronbach Alpha score of the exam was ranging from 70% to 78%, which is really, really good, with a standard F measurement that's around 2.7 to 3, which are really very good indicators. The exam managed to cover a broad range of course content, but not the physical examination skills, unfortunately. This is a word cloud representing the summary of the student feedback about the exam. As you can see in the center, it's smooth, clear, everything is organized. We felt comfortable. It was nice, organized, stress-free. Of course, some students perceived it as stressful, but the majority thought that it is a very good solution and it's a very fair way of assessing the clinical skills and getting them graduated. And this is the summary of the student feedback. Most of them strongly agree on most of the aspects of the exam, that they were clearly informed, that MOOCs helped them, that the communication was good, that the transition between stations was good, and their overall assessment was really very good. And they liked that it is less stressful, well prepared through the MOOCs, smooth support that they received, and that it is recorded. This was one very good process of this exam. They think it's fair. Some things that they dislike, that voice quality, lack of privacy when they show around the rooms in the pre-exam room, not being able to do physical examination. Some of them think that it is stressful and maybe finishing before the allocated time in some of the stations, and that we expected more from them despite the fact that their clinical training was interrupted. Regarding the assessors, they were all also satisfied with the exam, strongly agreeing that everything was okay, maybe except for, of course, that the exam, it's a fact that the exam cannot assess physical examination skills, and that maybe they disagreed also about yes, physical distancing. They are worrying that they were sitting with the role players in the same room, and then we are breaking the rules of physical distancing. They were not very happy about this. However, they were accepting. Education impact was also perceived to be this online OSCE have to very good educational impact. Students said that it made them study well, and they think that it helped them improve their clinical skills. And they focus on approach to common clinical presentations, interpretation of lab and radiology findings, as well as communication skills. The main cost was for buying more laptops in order to conduct the exam at a large scale. At one point of time, we were examining, I think, 50 students at a time, which is a huge number so we needed 50 different computers with good connectivity. So we managed to spend some amount of money, still perceived to be, if you have the hardware, if you have the infrastructure, it won't cost you as much. It took us 2 months to prepare for this, to prepare the people technically for this, and to train our clerks to be IT support team. So it took a lot of effort, but it was worth all the effort given to get this exam done. Challenges. So one positive thing was the proactive planning. All the kinds of problems related to technology connectivity happened, but needed organized, synchronized response from our side. But however, technical issues did not negatively affect the exams, and we put rules for this. So if the student is disconnected, we managed to communicate with him, and we determined a certain number of cases. If he passed this number of cases, he can rejoin, and if not, we will move him to another cohort and we'll ask him to improve his connectivity. So we had rules to deal with all the expected situations. You have chronic OSCE problems like doves, very lenient examiners who were really sympathizing with the student's situation and gave them full marks. Some role players were inconsistent across the exam or in the mirror stations, and having some oral questioning during the OSCE as usual. This is as any other OSCE. The advantages were easier management for student movement. It's easier to move the students from a breakout.
2 minutes.
Okay. It's much easier to move the students from one breakout room to another when it's compared to the actual physical OSCE. Accurate time control, it is really it's much better to control time in this breakout room function. We managed to use videos and high quality media in the OSCE exam, which is not will not be available in the actual physical OSCE. Video recorded exam is another advantage. Maybe one competence like telemedicine and communicating with the patients distantly can be part of this exam. It is safe for all on the considering the disaster situation. It is less stressful for some students, and maybe we might consider hybrid format of the future. So all the communication skills, interpretation, whatever objectives for the station, it can be conducted online, and only the physical examination stations can be conducted like face to face. These are a couple of papers that we managed to publish. One of them is a toolbox on how to conduct an online OSCE. The other is the evaluation, how to conduct evaluation, or the summary of the evaluation of our experience. Thank you very much. And these are some, we just wanted again to share some pictures from Sudan. These are 9 years back in front of the Athalat al Sudan Doctor Association, our Arabian Institute of Continuous Professional Development in Sudan, in front of the Mahayat Takhasusat, and this is me over the Omdurman Bridge. These are lovely photos, and I hopefully, inshallah, we'll be able to get back there again, inshallah, and all of you. Thank you very much. Jazakumullah khair.
I didn't know where to raise my hand.
Thank you.
Can I jump in?
Yes, salam.
I didn't know.
When you open the camera, I knew that.
First of all, thank you very much, Professor Muhammad Shahata, for responding positively and presenting an experience. I listened to you 2 years back, but I still couldn't get the whole picture. And even now, there are issues that need more clarification on how you did it, although I read both publications you just shared with us. But still there are questions about the logistics. But I'm going to ask a few questions about very specific things, if I may. Now I think you consider yourself, you have passion towards this distant OSCE. It is not, you are not going to forget about it because COVID is over. And I know you now have new ideas on how we can continue utilizing this distant online OSCE. So now is the issue of social distancing off the table. What sort of modifications can be introduced to what you described? Now, this is question number one. Actually, you mentioned something about examiners interacting with the students. I actually wanted to ask, can we control it positively? Can we tell them, can we give them a room so that they can positively interact to check clinical reasoning and these things? This is my second question, the interaction part. Of course, you probably already thought about bringing in the assessment of psychomotor skills at a distance. So can you also share with us any ideas in this regard? You also mentioned something about students complaining about the quality of this voice sound. So I wanted to ask about the gadgets you used. Have you used something that is both not quite expensive but very good? So these are issues related to infrastructures that are very important. And finally, you know our situation now. Our students are all over the place, in Egypt, in the UAE, in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, in different places. Now we are thinking, if we are going to use this online OSCE, how can we deliver an OSCE for these groups in different parts of the world? And thank you very much. I hope you can remember all these questions before this.
I will try, Prof. Abdul Manem. Jazakumullah khair. Yes, And regarding the gadgets, we were at a situation where we couldn't even purchase. We have the money, but we couldn't purchase good quality microphones. It was sort of stuck in the market because all people went to online learning. So we didn't manage to get very good quality speakers. Now we have more experience on how to get it, and they are available now. The second thing is regarding the how to do it. So it's Professor. I've conducted a couple of other exams, and the requirements were different. So the model was different. So in other exams, we needed only an invigilator, like an international expert. For example, in the Royal College of Physicians or Royal College of General Practitioners in Ireland, he just wanted to go into stations while he is in Ireland and make sure that people in Bahrain are conducting a good exam. So we used this computer camera as only a monitoring camera. He just move in and out from the rooms, for example. In other situation, we had the role players in a different logging from his own computer or logging from a building, which is the Arab Institute of Continuous Professional Development that is already working in Sudan and in Egypt. So the role players come to the building, but the examiners are staying at home and logging from their own computers. So, Professor, based on the requirements, you can modify the model and make the necessary arrangement to fit what is needed from them. But the thing is, it can assist most of the competencies needed for medical students. Most of the competencies. The most difficult one is the psychomotor, as you've mentioned. Maybe we had ideas, but we haven't really implemented any. Like students, we develop a video for physical examination and ask a student what was done correctly and what was done wrong. But again, these are not testing the level of actually doing this, performing this. Or if the students who will be examined are already in Sudan and they have patients with them, or the role players, then and the examiners are outside Sudan, the examiners then can you can use the camera for them to visualize the students while conducting the psychomotor or the physical examination to the simulated patients. So it's really it need to be adaptive and you need to be to know the requirements in order to design what is best for the situation.
If I just may grab the last one because I think it is possible, because now the students are here and there and everywhere, and also the examiners are here, there, and everywhere. So one of the options could be where there are a number of students in the same place, but we cannot get the examiners to them, then we can conduct an online OSCE utilizing the examiners wherever they are. So this is, I think, this is one of the viable options. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. I leave the floor to ask.
Thank you, Professor Muhammad Shahata, for this successful experience. As I mentioned before, it is very relevant to our situation nowadays. We're just out of time. Let us move to the second panel speech. Please welcome with me Dr. Muhammad Al-Hadi, who is a medical educationist and emergency medicine specialist. He has extensive work and passion and experience in clinical skill instruction. Dr. Muhammad Al-Hadi will present us simulation-based clinical assessment. Simulation is very trending in the last 2 decades in education, but there is an increased trend in using simulation as an assessment tool. Okay, so please welcome with me Dr. Muhammad Al-Hadi to tell us about simulation based clinical assessment.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be with you today and to share my knowledge and experience about simulation-based assessment. I'm really thrilled and happy to be with all of you, with my professors, with my mentor, Professor Sahel. It has been a long time since we like we met face to face. And I really hope that the next version of this conference will be in Khartoum. It will be face to face. And I hope that everything in Sudan settle very soon. And may Allah save our people in Sudan and Gaza, and make things better for them. So, can you hear my voice very well? You can hear it, okay?
The
Confirmed.
voice.
Can you hear? You can hear my voice.
Yes, confirmed,
Yes.
Victor.
Yeah, and you can see my screen. So today I'll be talking about simulation-based assessment. So I will be talking about how do we use simulation in assessment, and what are the 7 steps for planning a simulation-based assessment, and what could be the threats for validity of a simulation-based assessment, and why faculty development is really needed, and the consequences and the educational impact of having simulation-based assessment. So simulation itself is a very powerful tool for teaching. So before you even think about, I want to use the simulation for assessment, you should be actually using simulation for teaching. And when you use simulation for teaching, you can always give formative assessments through feedback and debriefing conversation. So ideally, if you are thinking, I want to do simulation-based assessment, I should be doing a lot of simulation-based teaching, then, we need to use it also for assessment. And I will assume that whoever is attending this session have some basic understanding of simulation-based medical education. So what are the simulation modalities? What's the flow of simulation scenario? What's the concept of fidelity, queuing, and facilitation? And also, I will assume that he have some knowledge about validity, reliability, standard setting, and planning an OSCE exam. And I wish if I have time to go through that, but I will leave you with a very good resources that will help you read more about these and get more understanding. So if you are planning to do a simulation-based assessment, so first of all, you have to ask yourself, what outcomes that I would like to assess? You start from that. Then you will choose which assessment method, and do I really need to use simulation for assessment or not? And then which simulation modality will I use in my exam? Then I will develop the assessment scenario. Then I will score either by using a checklist or rating scale. And do I need to include global rating or not? And then you need to do a standard setting properly. And finally, you need to standardize the testing conditions. So we'll take it step by step. So the first thing, you have to decide what it needs to be assessed. So do you want to assess communication interpersonal skills? So simulation can be used to teach communication interpersonal skills, and also it can be used to assess. And when you say communication skills, there's different level of communication skills. Communicating with the patient, communicating with colleague, and also there is a basic communication and there's advanced communication topics. Do I want to assess the data gathering history taking? So you can use simulation for that. Do I want to assess physical examination? Am I looking for basic or advanced or science identification? Am I looking to test procedural skill station? Am I looking to test clinical reasoning? And I will speak later on about non-technical skills. So you have to decide what outcomes that you want to assess. There has to be in your curriculum. You should have a clear curriculum map, and you should blueprint your assessment properly. And I will refer you to the book that has been written by Professor James Ware and Marty. I know the book is published in 2014, but it's really very good, very practical. It will introduce you to how you plan and administer OSCE properly, and it will help you making your blueprint very easily. Then, so what are the non-technical skills? So the non-technical skills are basically the non-medical skills that are essential for patient care. And those non-technical skills are really important for postgraduate trainees. So house officers, registrars, in their training, in order for them to provide a good quality of care, they have to have technical skills and non-technical skills, which include interpersonal skills like team working, leadership, and team membership skills, and some cognitive skills like task management, decision-making, and situation awareness. And the best way to teach those non-technical skills And to assess them is to use simulation. So by doing simulation, you can teach and assess those non-technical skills. And there are many validated tools that has been designed for that purpose. So ask yourself, do I really need to use simulation for an assessment? For example, if you just simply want to assess a junior students on their ability to do physical examination, you don't need simulation. You need volunteers or mannequins. The students will go into their OSCE. They will show how the examination techniques are being done, and you'll assess them. This is very simple. But if you want to show like more skills, like communication with the patient, like more reasoning skills, then you might need simulation. This is for undergraduate. And for postgraduate level, for example, if you want to, like, for example, like life-threatening situations, difficult communication, for example, like right now I'm doing anesthesia and intensive care rotations. So like anesthetic crisis, like malignant hyperthermia, or for example, anesthesia toxicity, like we haven't seen them for the last 3 years. So for me as a trainee, if I haven't been gone through simulation and assist through simulations, I might not be able to know how to approach these cases. And the first time for me to see them when they happen in front of my eyes, it's a disaster. So if you want to test rare conditions, life-threatening, difficult communication, the simulation would be a very good tool to help you with the assessment. Always consider the validity, reliability, and the educational impact and the costs. The simulation assessment can be costly, especially when you want to start that for the first time. Then you have to choose your simulation modality. And these are the basic simulation modality. So you can use the task trainer, you can use the standardized patient simulation, or you can use mannequin-based simulation, or you can use the virtual augmented reality. And for each simulation modality, you can assess a specific clinical skills. So if you are looking for only physical examination or just demonstration of procedure, you can use a task trainer. And you can use a task trainer as a hybrid simulation. So for example, you want to test your students, how can they do, for example, breast examination or a pelvic examination, and you want to make it realistic. So instead of them doing it on a mannequin, they can put the mannequin on a real female patient, so they can practice talking to the patient and doing the examination. You can use the standardized patient to test communication skills, the data gathering, physical examination, and clinical reasoning. You can use the simulation-based mannequin to test the data gathering and therapeutic and diagnostic procedures, clinical reasoning, and also you can use that to assess the non-technical skills, the teamwork skills, the team communication, and situational awareness. And the augmented reality now is coming actually to make the mannequin-based simulation more realistic. So with the use of the augmented reality, like you can look at the mannequin and you can see there is a bleed from the mannequin. You can, for example, you want to intubate the mannequin and you look at the upper airway and there's significant hemoptysis. So it will make the simulation more realistic, more challenging, and it will be more engaging. So the next step, you have to develop your assessment scenario. And you can create it from scratch, but luckily there are many available simulation scenario on the internet. So it's better instead of starting from zero, Google search, and I will show you websites that you can find lots of resources on them. So you feel free to adapt them, to modify them. They will make your life easy. Use a template to write the scenario, and at the end of my presentation, I will share a template with you. And also, if your simulation will have a standardized patient, then also you should use a template to help you with that task. Make sure that you have the appropriate equipment, the environment, and also, like whenever you are administering a simulation assessment, having a facility of video recording is very important. It will help you with exam irregularities. It will help you with offering feedback at the end. So there are many systems that has been developed for simulation capturing, so that can be used for the teaching as well for the assessment. And you have to pilot, test, and test it. So the MedEd portal is an American website. It has lots of simulation scenario ready for teaching. You can modify them for assessment. And for the emergency medicine, there is EM sim cases. And if you Google, there are many, many websites for each specialty. They are sharing their own simulations, so you can use these simulations for your own teaching or your assessment. Then you have to score your assessment. And you have to think, okay, do I need to use checklist? Do I need to use rating scales? And sometimes we might need to think about global rating. And when I was looking at the literature, there's many people are using the global rating and rating scale as a similar thing. But I feel that the rating scale is something different from global rating. I will share my opinion, and I'm happy for the floor, especially Professor Sal. I think I think he mentioned he like he also thinks that the rating scale is different from the global rating, and the global rating is really important if you are doing a standard setting as that. So I will talk about checklist, rating scales, and global rating in the upcoming slides. Whenever, if you have a validated assessment tool, use it. So for example, if you are want to test communication skills, there are many validated tools. Use them. They have been validated by research. So use them, utilize them for your assessment. If you can use them as electronic form, will be better than the paper form, because with the electronic form, you'll be able to offer feedback. I know that in the past, we have the feeling that in our summative assessment, we shouldn't give the students feedback. Should be pass only or fail only, and that's it. But now with people are moving away from the final assessment to a couple of like small assessment or programmatic assessment. So the students' summative assessment is no longer a single exam; it's a multiple exams. So having a feedback with each one of these exams will help. And if you have it electronic, you can simply release the results electronic with the feedback for the students. It will help them. I personally believe that the students should be given the checklist and the rating scale. And again, that's always an issue for a debate. In my experience, when we were doing teaching clinical skills in the Caribbean, so we used to give the students all their communication skills, all the different data gathering skills, physical examination skills throughout the course. So the students can read them, practice them, rehearse them. And then in the final exam, we will choose one of these cases. We might make some modifications to the case, but still they have to use these communication skills or the data gathering and the examination to reach the case. I believe in that. Again, people have different opinion, and from research evidence, even the people saying that sometimes when you do a multiple days OSCE, if the cases are the same on the second or the third day, it wouldn't really affect the student performance. This is an example for a checklist for a CBR. This is an example for a checklist for a history taking. So the checklist, it's simply like items, done or not done. There should be case-based specific. It should be evidence-based and reflect the best practice, and shouldn't have more than 15 items. And the checklist can be used very good for beginning learners, undergraduate learners, to assess history, physical examination, and procedure. However, for advanced examinee, like in postgraduate studies, maybe using the rating skills is better than the checklist, because sometimes using the checklist might be disadvantage for the advanced trainee. Like the junior trainee, for example, for data gathering, they tend to ask many questions to reach the differential, while advanced trainee, they ask only the key questions, the relevant questions to reach the appropriate differential. So if you are using a checklist to assess both of them, you might give the advanced trainee a lower score, although he asked only the relevant question. So if you have advanced trainee, think of, okay, maybe instead of using checklist, use a rating scale. And the rating scales are different type. So it could be Likert scale, like for example, agree, disagree scale. Or for example, this is students, how students were clear in the explanation, not clear at all, one, somewhat clear, clear, very clear, extremely clear. And many people like the third type of rating scales, the scales which has clear description of behavior. Because some people might say, why should I give him clear versus somewhat clear? What is the exact criteria? So if you have a clear criteria for each one of these points, it will make people life easy and will reduce the inter-observer disagreement. The only problem with the behavior anchor rating skills, they are time consuming to be developed. So if you have a chance to use a
Muhammad,
validated,
you have five
yeah,
minutes more. Have five
okay, thank you.
minutes.
Thank you so much. Yeah, yeah, I will be finished hopefully. Yeah. So if you can use validated rating skills and checklists, that would be great. So for example, for communication skills, there are many validated rating skills, but the two famous tools is the Master Interview Rating Scale and the Cambridge Calgary Processing Scale. So instead of you developing your own kind of communication skills assessment, which it doesn't really have any strong evidence to support it, you can use that tool and you can adapt that tool. You can adapt that tool. For example, if you want to assess clinical reasoning, there is the assessment of clinical reasoning tool. It's a very nice tool that can help you to assess your trainee clinical reasoning. For the non-technical skills, there is a program called the Team Steps. This program has been designed to teach and to implement the teaching of non-technical skills, and they offer lots different tools to assess those non-technical skills. And obviously, most of the resuscitation courses, they have their own guidelines and their checklist. So if you're assessing your trainee resuscitation skills, use their checklist. Do not reinvent the wheel. Use that one. At least you'll be able to defend like I used something validated. It's right, and this is a standard. You should be up to this standard. Sometimes, whatever, if you are using a checklist or a rating scale, some people add the global rating at the end. Like, for example, do you think the students pass this station? Clear pass, clear fail, or borderline? And it's used actually to help you with the standard setting later on. So you have to decide how would you do a standard setting for the assessment. And I have to admit, like the standard setting has been one of the difficult topic for me myself. So whenever we used to do that, we used to ask our psychometrists to help us with deciding how the appropriate way for a standard setting and deciding about the pass mark. So you can use relative approaches or absolute, and they recommend for a skills assessment to consider examinee-based standard, either the borderline regression method or the borderline group. Finally, you have to standardize the testing condition. So if you are using patients who are acting, you have to train them to make sure that those patients, whenever they have been seen by students, they are playing the same role without any change. You have to make sure the equipments are all the same across the board. You have also to train the faculty to reduce the inter-rater variability. You have to pilot testing, like doing mocks before the final testing, to ensure that everybody is on the same page. So what can affect the simulation-based assessment validity? So sometimes it can be underrepresentative assessment. So sometimes we wanted to assess a specific skills, but we don't have the simulator to show the skills or the finding. Like we're doing a case of a chest pain in a standardized patient, but this patient chest is completely normal. There is no any, like the history is written for heart failure, but the patient has no any signs for heart failure. That could be a problem. So sometimes it might be difficult to create a challenging uh, situation to challenge the learner. And the cost of, especially the starting cost, can be difficult, especially if you have many students and many OSCE circles, and you want to replicate the stations to different, like you want many samples of the same station, the cost might be a problem. Sometimes the stations themselves can be irrelevant. So you might design the scenario to be and it be very difficult. That's why the piloting is really important. And if they have previous experience, it might affect them. So you have to make sure that your trainee have been utilizing simulation for teaching before you go to use it in assessment. And performance anxiety is really can be a thing, and the rate error. So as we can see, you need a faculty development. So your faculty should be relaxed with using simulation for teaching before they go for assessment. Otherwise, the assessment process will be very challenging to the students, and you won't be able to achieve what are you looking for. So what will be the consequences and the educational impacts? It has been proven by research evidence if you are using simulation for assessment, performance will be better, the cost of care will be reduced, and the patient outcome will be improved. Imagine if your trainee in the first year get exposed to all emergencies, a simulation in teaching, and then you assess them, and you don't pass them to the second year until they pass all those emergencies. So they when they're going to the second year, they'll be very competent provider, and that will improve the patient care. If you are using simulation for assessment, then that will catalyze many people to say, okay, we can't use it for assessment without using that for teaching. I can't bring you scenarios for difficult communication in the OSCE, and I'm not doing that in my teaching. That will encourage people to adopt the simulation-based medical education. And it's really important for educators to balance like simulation, like like creating a positive learning environment for teaching in simulation is a big thing. So that's why before you're thinking of using that for assessment, you have to use that a lot for teaching and learning, so the students don't feel threatened and they open themselves for learning and they develop themselves. And then at some point you have to test them. You have to test them. That's will be okay for them, and they will be used to it. And that's it. So I'll stop slide sharing, and the floor is open for any questions or any comments.
Thank you, Dr. Muhammad, for this interesting talk about simulation-based examination. I guess it raised a lot of questions in the minds of our audiences. I see that Prof. Sahel is opening his camera. It means that
I couldn't find where to raise your hand electronically, but I raise my physical hand. No. Thank you very much. Because I usually take the chance to first greet and then thank my friends. I did it with Professor Shahada, and now I'm doing it with Muhammad Al-Hadi. Assalamu alaikum for us to start with. And thank you very much for sharing with us your tremendous experience in the area of simulation. So that I don't take a lot of time of the session, I would like to comment about a few things you mentioned in your talk. One of them is you said you are a believer that we need to give the checklist to the students. And you also mentioned that some people will have reservations towards this. So they think if you give it to them, then they will just automate the process. They will just play for you what you want them to do without actually understanding what they're doing. So what happened? I read a publication and I was going to try to implement what they proposed. They developed something called the Objective Structured Clinical Instructional Module, OSCIM. They called it the OSCIM. They said you bring whatever you want to ask in the OSCE and convert it into a training module without actually giving them the actual checklist. But you make sure in your training module you cover all the aspects, and then they know that these are the issues that are going to be tested in the OSCE. So you combine it, you give them the checklist, but you don't give them the actual checklist. And you mentioned it at the end of your talk, one of the educational impacts of the simulation, that people are going to use it for training. You wanted to comment on that? I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah. I totally agree with you, Professor Sahel. Like, I don't give the students the checklist like pure. This is a checklist. No. So during the course, like we used to teach communication skills, physical exam, data gathering, and physical examination. and we used to do it around cases. So throughout the course, we expose them to different cases. For each case, they will receive the checklist for history taking, a checklist for physical examination. They have a standard checklist for communication. So they are, and these are combined in a student workbook that they tend to get throughout the course. So, and they will use this for simulation regularly. So by the end of the course, they have been exposed to the all common medical complaints. They have been exposed to all system examinations, to the common medical disease. So I give them everything, but it's not like this is your exam checklist. I will not teach you. Bye bye. So I agree with you
No,
completely
no, no,
that
no,
this
no.
is
But the authors of the article, they said
yeah.
if you give the students the checklist, they will just go and memorize, and they just come and automatically go through the checklist. And you don't want that to happen because they will just be automatically automated. So they teach them the issues, but they don't give them the actual checklist. And this is why they converted the thing into an OSCIM, which is
Okay.
Objective Structured Clinical Instruction Module. My second point is about the bar. Yeah, okay.
So the way that we prevented that by ensuring that our OSCEs are built on reasoning, not on memorization. So by doing that, if the students try to memorize and they came and didn't follow a specific reasoning, they still won't get their points.
Okay, okay. So you mentioned something about the bars of behaviorally anchored rating scale. Also, there are, and you also mentioned that some people think that it will be too difficult to prepare. But in fact, even for the ordinary rating scale, you need to prepare what they call the rubric. And in the past, what they did is they actually put the rubric inside the rating scale form so that the examiner will look exactly what is expected when he say this. So not a separate rubric, but a rubric within the rating scale, and there are views about that. Shall I give them the rubric and they read through it before they go into the exam? Then I give them the rating scale, and then they will remember when to give 3, when to give 5. So there are issues related to these bars. It is too much to prepare for a group who is working to start introducing this simulation-based assessment. And also for examiners, you give them inside the checklist, they might get confused because it becomes too much of a rating scale. So this is my second observation. Thank you very much again, and sorry for taking this long time out of the time, Dr. Khan.
Thank you, Professor Sahel, for this fruitful discussion. I think we can give just 2 or 3 minutes for 2 or 3 questions for Dr. Muhammad
And,
or Professor Shahada, if anyone has any comment or
and
question.
if at the end, if you can give me 1 minute just to show the templates for the simulation, just to give the people some idea, but I will leave it to the end if nobody has any question or any comment.
Actually, I see Dr. Yunus, who is one of the experts in simulation, and I expected him to comment either about the online OSCE or the simulation-based assessment. If he can hear me, I would love it if he can comment. Okay.
Any comments?
I
Or
got a
still waiting
question.
for
I got a
contributions?
question from Dr. Abir Hussein. So, certification process for simulation courses. So basically, there are many courses worldwide for simulation, but on Coursera, there is a basic simulation course that's often for free. So I would encourage you to go for Coursera. Start with that course on simulation. Just go Coursera simulation. You'll find the course. Start with that course, and then from there you can go and do many online courses. Uh, any question? Any?
I guess also, Dr. Muhammad, we have a tool here for sharing resources. Also, if you can.
Yeah. Okay. So I mentioned in my presentation, I'm sharing my screen. So this is, for example, one of the simulation scenario
Yeah,
developing
it is there.
template. Yeah. So uh, basically, if you follow this template every time, you make sure that your scenario is well built with the patient information, with the examination finding, with the needed resources, with the knowledge. And if you have an SP, you have to go with a specific different template. This is, for example, an example for a patient script. So it's a chest pain case. So the SP name, the author, the objective, the primary system, and then we tell the patient what to say. Uh, it's detailed with the past medical history, family history, social history, and even the way that he should portrays the case is very clear for him. Like, what did you say initially when they asked you what brought you here? And then how do you respond to the open-ended question? And we have questions where it tells the patient you shouldn't share them unless the students specifically ask about them. We call them contingent response. And also there is like if you have been examined, like what did you respond to your examination? So
If you allow me, Dr. Khalid, I would like to
Okay.
share with you.
Thank you.
Not 2 minutes, 1 minute. I would like to share with you for me, it's a very important story. In UK, some of the examiners who are practitioners in simulated environments, they are examiners in OSCEs, and they said, well, using simulated patients is not quite authentic, and it's not. It has got very low predictive validity. This is from their side. They said if they can deal with simulated patients, it doesn't mean that they can deal with real patients and all of that, and it is not quite authentic. So they said, okay, we are going to conduct research. Next week, you all working, you know, the people who know London, there is a big street in London called Harley Street. And in that, there are many clinics. Most of the consultants, famous consultants are there. They said, we are going to send some of our simulated patients to Harley Street. And we will notify the doctors in Harley Street. If they can identify that as being a simulated patient, not a real patient, they need to call this number. In fact, during that week, they sent droves of simulated patients to Harley Street, and they went and complained to the doctors, and they did their part. And in fact, the doctors couldn't identify not a single simulated patient, and they really called about real patient, telling them that, oh, you sent me this lady and she is a simulated patient. They said, we don't know any lady like that. This is not us. This is a real patient. You mixed things up. So, I mean, proper training of simulated patients really works if you train them very well. So this is a true story, by the way.
Very interesting, Professor. And I was writing this question in my paper about transferability of skills and authentic learning. Yeah. Okay. Now we come to the end of our session. Thanks to Professor Muhammad Shahata, who told us about online OSCE during disruptions, and Dr. Muhammad Al Hadi also told us about the simulation-based examinations. Okay. Please, just I'm reminding you that you have to go to the upper right part for the schedule to join the other room. But before that, Prof. Sahel, you have.
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
You raise your hand.
No. This is a bye-bye.
Okay, so this room is ended. Okay, please go to the schedule and join the next session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. جزاكم الله خير.
شكرا جزيلا.
السلام عليكم.